What is going on, guys? I hope we're having a great day. My name is Pure Noble. Thank you for coming to another video. Now this video is basically just going to be a voiceover. It's a voiceover of me as a mouse and keyboard player who wants to talk about the pros, who wants to talk about the cons when it comes to playing mouse and key. So for anyone that is new to the Call of Duty scene, new to FPSs in general, that have always grown up using controllers, right, and they're very interested in wanting to play on mouse and key and see how that feels, but don't necessarily want to put the time or invest, and you want to get an outside opinion, well, hey, look no further. This video is going to be that for you. Now, mind you, the gameplay that you're about to see is very raw mouse and keyboard gameplay that I have not touched mouse and keyboard for actually the past 4 to 6 months. Right now, I have been using the Scuff and Vision Pro. I've actually been going back and forth between these two types of controllers, and I don't know which feels better because at the time that I'm playing it, it feels good. But then I decide to switch again and I play that controller and that also feels good. So I don't know if they're just both generally good and it's really just based on my mood. But the two controllers that I've been playing, not sponsored, is going to be the Xbox Elite 2, and then we also have the Scuff and Vision Pro. Now mind you, Xbox Elite 2 can be both played on the Xbox as well as PC, but unfortunately for the Scuff and Vision Pro is a PC exclusive controller. If you wanted to have a Xbox style controller that also plays on PC, then you're going to be looking at the Scuff Instinct Pro. Like I said, not a sponsor. But before we get into the rest of the video, guys, if you do enjoy the video, please drop a like to the video. It's going to help it tremendously in the algorithm. And if you are enjoying the content so far, please sub to the channel. My name is Pure Noble and I'm glad that you're here. If anything, let's get to it. All right, so let's get started. Now we're going to talk about the pros and we're going to talk about the cons. And this is just me literally spieling, no script, nothing, and giving my personal feedback of what I think the pros are and the cons of playing as a mouse and keyboard player. Now, mind you, I did not play mouse and keyboard exclusively for the entire time of Call of Duty. Just like any other Call of Duty player out there, they did start as controller. I only recently switched to the mouse and keyboard back in MW 2019 when crossplay first became available. At that moment when crossplay came out, I thought it'd be a perfect time to switch over to a PC build, and hey, at the same time switching over to PC gaming, I figured, hey, let's try learn mouse and keyboard on Call of Duty. So without ranting too much on the video, let's start with the pros. The first pro that I know about mouse and keyboard is faster inputs. Now, faster inputs, what I mean by that is you have a keyboard, you have a mouse. A lot of these are keybinds and keystrokes that are a lot more faster to press millisecond wise compared to a standard Xbox controller. So what that means is any movement that I do, any tacticals, any gun, any action that I perform in the game, by a couple milliseconds more, it's going to register a lot more faster compared to a controller player. Now, I do say this as a pro because we are getting additional millisecond head start compared to other roller players. But nowadays, with the controllers that are being built, unfortunately, that does not hold up too well. Standard controllers out there, yes, you will be able to have an edge, but a lot of custom controllers like Scuff, Aim, Hyper, even just the standard cheaper ones too that are off-brand that are Xbox, those controllers are already going to be coming with mechanical press keys or adaptive triggers. What that means is you're going to have the mouse click ability on a controller. So the idea that you are having an edge by being able to press these keys faster is null and voided because of the amount of players, whether they are a sweat or a casual player, a lot of them are starting to switch to not using a standard controller and using more so controller brands that have paddles and have mechanical presses. Now, moving on to the second pro of being a mouse and keyboard player is that you're able to have easier recoil control with the mouse compared to using sticks on a controller. Because when it comes to controlling recoil, let's just say vertical recoil control, right? Because both mouse and keyboard and controllers have the same ability to counter horizontal recoil, right? You're strafing left and right. But vertical recoil is a lot more different trying to pull down on the sticks compared to pulling down with a mouse. Because pulling down with a mouse, you are actually going to have more micro adjustment movements that you're able to control because of the amount of pressure that you use to pull down on the mouse. But when you're trying to counter recoil on a controller by pulling down on the sticks, there's a lot of variables that are different, and it's very hard to be accurate when you're trying to control that vertical recoil because not all controllers are built the same, not all hands are built the same. Everyone has different hand sizes, hand strengths, sometimes they'll know the amount of pressure they need to apply with the thumbs. So I'd say for an experienced controller player, yeah, give them some time, they are going to be able to pull down the sticks just as accurate as a mouse. But more often than not, trying to apply muscle memory on how much recoil they need to pull down for the sticks, it does take a while as a controller player. And mind you, recoil is very different from gun to gun. One gun is going to require more cooldown compared to another gun where it doesn't require that much of a cooldown. But trying to control that recoil with the mouse, it's very easy to adjust and it's very quick to understand the level of recoil pattern as a mouse and keyboard player. Now moving on to the next pros of a mouse and keyboard player. Now mind you, I think this just might be a skill issue, but I've noticed a big difference when it comes to like directional movement as the character when you're trying to move with a roller compared to a mouse and keyboard. Because with mouse and keyboard, as you're moving your mouse in any general direction that you're moving, you get to be very precise. Like if you need to only look X amount of times on the left to go into this specific direction, you're going to be able to have that control and have that precision of stopping when you need to, whether you're making a left, whether you're making a right, whether you're trying to look at a specific item that you're trying to pick up or loot. It's very easy to point to it with a mouse. But when you're moving as a role player, and you can tell this very easily when you're watching the kill cam of a player or when you're spectating them, is when they're trying to look left or right, you see them trying to do like small gestures left, small gestures right, and if they didn't move enough, they'll do another gesture moving to the right or moving to the left. Reason why is because they don't want to overturn. You have a higher chance to overturn your player and look too much in the direction that you're not supposed to look because you're using the sticks. Compared to a mouse, you can stop at that exact moment and exact direction that you need to look. So when it comes to the precision of where you need to look and where you need to move at that exact moment, I think as a mouse and keyboard player, you're going to have a lot more refined movement compared to a roller player. And then the last pro, and I think this is just a minor one because you can easily counter this by getting additional equipment as a controller player, but push to talk's a lot more easier because a lot of push to talks, a lot of people like to use the mouse 4 or mouse 3 button that is on the side of the mouse pad to be able to push to talk. Compared to a roller player, you don't necessarily have that option, especially if you're on console. So like if you're a streamer or a content creator and you need to be able to separate you talking to the game as versus you talking to the stream, it's a lot more easier as a mouse and keyboard player because you can just put push to talk on and talk to the team only when you press that button. But being a roller player, you're gonna have to buy like a foot pedal, or you're gonna have to remap one of the paddles on your controller for push to talk if you want to do it that way. I think it's an additional step that's not necessary, but you have to. So I think that's a pretty good pro on the mouse and keyboard side. But yeah, so those are some of the pros that I feel as a mouse and keyboard player that works really well for me. Now let's move on to the cons. So the first con is it takes a lot more time to master as a mouse and keyboard player compared to mastering a controller player. And even when you do master as a mouse and keyboard player, you only match up to the above average controller player. In my opinion, I think someone who has mastered MKB will beat the regular controller player. But if you have an experienced roller player who knows how to abuse rotational aim assist, who knows how to have refined movement on the recoil, will beat a mouse and keyboard player. Second thing, and this is connected to the idea that it takes a lot more time to master, is that when you get into any of your close range engagement gunfights, so with anything that you're using, your shotguns, your SMGs, your pistols, anything where you are fighting against movement demons but at the same time trying to trace accurately, this is where mouse and keyboard will fail you. Over time, can you build this skill where you're able to trace targets a lot more better at close range? Yes, of course. But trying to compare that learned skill to a controller player who has rotational aim assist, who has aim assist in general, you are going to lose the fight because with mouse and keyboard, it's raw input. What I mean by that is only based on your reaction is when you move your mouse. If your reaction is not fast enough and you don't move that mouse, guess what? You are missing those shots. Compared to a roller player, even if their reaction might also be slow too, what happens is rotational aim assist will start to nudge the aim and nudge the gun sooner before the reaction. That way, at least when the roller player does start to react, the gun is already kind of dragging close to the target. Compared to someone in mouse and key, when they start to react, guess what? That gun is still facing away from the target. Now they have to start tracing. That's why when it comes to milliseconds in a gunfight, getting on target and tracing, you can do that a lot more faster on a roller in close range gunfights compared to a mouse and keyboard. And then when it comes to gear as a mouse and keyboard player, I think overall when you total everything that you use, it's a lot more expensive compared to a controller because you're looking for a very good keyboard, which keyboards, very refined gaming keyboards, can cost upwards to $150. Then you have really good gaming mouses where it's a good $90 and above. And if you even want to go to the harder extent extent of doing everything that you can to be good on mouse and key, you're going to be adding arm sleeves. Arm sleeves, you know, they might be cheap. They're like 15 or 20 bucks, but nonetheless, you still have to add that. You also have the mouse pad. You know, people can use regular mouse pads, but if you really want to gain an edge, you would use glass pads. And more often than not, a glass pad will cost you $100 and up. So if you count the mouse, the keyboard, the glass pad, the arm sleeve, all of that gear just to play mouse and keyboard at a very high efficient level, it's generally more expensive compared to buying a controller, even if the controller costs $200+. And then one more con that you're going to find, and this is just exclusively for people who want to play mouse and keyboard and they're on console, is that when you try to do a mouse and keyboard setup and connect it to a console does not have USB ports or USB-C ports that are going to register your equipment and input fast enough compared to connecting it to a PC. So you're going to have major input lag. I've heard it time and time again of console players who want to play mouse and keyboard, but they can't because the input lag is just way too slow when they're trying to run it on a console. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the pros and cons of playing as a mouse and keyboard player. I'm glad that you were able to survive that very body gameplay. But what do you guys think? Are you still going to try use mouse and keyboard player? In my opinion, I'd say just give it a shot. It's a very good time to just experience it in general, because when you experience a different input that you play on, especially if you're going from controller to mouse and keyboard player, you get to have a better understanding and perspective of some of the gripes that you will hear from a mouse and keyboard player. And then if you did enjoy the content, please drop a like on the video, drop a sub to the channel. It helps the channel tremendously, and we are trying to grow in 2025. All right, if anything, thank you so much, guys. Noble out.